Welcome to our course on presenting to employers with Dynamis. So the idea on this session is to really change the conversation. So far we've talked about implementation in terms of phases. First we learn those basic fundamental concepts we need to know in Dynamis moving forward. We learn that by entering in composite rated plans. And as we get more familiar with Dynamis, we can add to that equation how to add age-rated plans or how to add self-funded plans. But the idea that the focus in the beginning has all been on how to enter things. Well, now we want to talk about the next phase, which is going to be actually taking information in the plan designer and presenting it to our employer clients. So this is really a key piece to that process change we talk about in Dynamis. In our static models, our paper has been our main vehicle for communicating plan design information. In our static models, we have everything printed out. We go in and we rely on those paper static exhibits to really facilitate that conversation with the employer. And now we're moving to this real-time, interactive, collaborative type model. And it can be uncomfortable going in front of your employers using something new. We've done things the same way for a long time. So this is really where we want to help kind of guide you based on what we've learned from our clients that will help transition into presenting with Dynamis. So really what this boils down to is, now that we know how to enter information, we need to know the different ways we have to communicate that plan design information to our employers. Well, one of the ways is going to be in the dashboard, in the plan design views, where we actually build things. Ultimately, we want to be in here because that's where we're going to be modeling and seeing changes to impact points and really focusing in on plan designs. And while that's great for detail when we're really focusing on that one plan design, there are going to be times we need to see other plan designs compared to one another, where we can see those impact points from one plan and one group against another plan and another group. So that's where we're going to introduce the different ways we have to communicate information. And really the next is going to be reports. And when we talk about reports in Dynamis, that means they're designed to be printed. Okay, they're going to be created as PDF files that we can email, we can print. And we'll talk a little bit more about reports. You know, the idea of that printed material, our reliance on paper as our safety net is really what we're talking about here when we talk to reports. But the idea is in Dynamis, reports take on a little different perspective because we go into our employers anticipating we're going to be making changes. So really, reports a lot of times turn into what we use to follow up with our clients and show the results of what we decided in our meeting. All right, now I think from a learning curve standpoint, we've seen our clients normally start off with presenting to employers really using a combination of the dashboard and plan design views, and then they supplement that conversation with reports. All right, so once we go out and start getting more comfortable doing that, you know, the first one might feel a little uncomfortable, but the second one and by the third one, we're actually starting to think about plan designs and think about those renewal meetings and the conversations we can have from that Dynamis real-time perspective. Now, once we get comfortable with that, there's another way to present plan design information, and that's going to be through the use of our 3 built-in presentation screens. So I think from a progression standpoint, after we learn how to enter in that information, we're going to go out in front of our employers and really primarily use the dashboard and the reports. And when we're comfortable with that, we can introduce how those presentation screens can also be an effective way to communicate plan design information. All right, so that's really what we want to focus on in this lesson. Now, what that's going to include is going to be workflows. So we're really going to kind of walk through our sample employer presentation and discuss workflows at the same time. And we're going to look at it, first of all, from the pre-meeting perspective. What do we need to do to prepare for that employer meeting? What are those workflow steps that we need to consider before we go in and meet with our employers? Then the next set is going to be that workflow that for when we're in front of the employer. All right, so the idea is we've been able to learn by observing other Dynamis clients engage with their employers and have really been able to determine what steps set up for a successful Dynamis presentation. So we'll be sharing that when we get into our presentation best practices. All right, so as we go through this, the workflow, both pre-meeting and for the actual employer presentation, we're going to be using a combination of the dashboard and the reports. So as we go through this, we'll introduce you to the coverage period overview report, the plan group comparison report, and the healthcare reform analysis. So these are the three reports that are designed to work for our composite rated employers. We'll see we also have a supplemental report for age rated and also one for plan groups with self-funded contracts. But these three reports we'll be using as we walk through this presentation workflow. So hopefully after going through this course, you'll be able to have an expectation on what it's going to be like in front of the employer, have a kind of a set of steps you can follow to help ensure a successful presentation, and really be able to set you up for success when you're working with your employer clients.